right. Well, first and foremost, thank you so much for taking the time. Thank you guys for taking a little bit of time to, connect at this level. And one of the things that we all have in common is this path of medicine. You guys have been in this path of connecting and going deep with the medicines for, sometimes, some of you guys for years and decades, right? And at some point, and I know that some of you guys are new to the path as well, but one of the common things that if you're here is one of the common things that we have is that we have heard a calling, right? And this is not a I remember the first time that I was initiated into this path. I remember you know realizing and recognizing that everyone gets this calling, but not everybody is able to hear it. Everybody has a calling from the medicines to keep on going into the natural route, into and naturally speaking, this is a progression of spirituality that in the Andean cosmology we call it the Hampeq. Some of you guys are familiar with this, but the call from medicines is basically the divine feminine calling you home, right? Or the divine masculine, if it's Bufo, the one that called you. For me, it was ayahuasca. Later on, I received the invitation and the calling from San Pedro, Bufo, and so on and so forth. But, it was maybe like about 4 years, 3 to 4 years before I started actually going into the route, a little bit more formally, because I needed about 3 years of incubation, 3 years of a lot of medicine work on my own and with some groups here and there, but to understand myself well, right? And after 3 years, I felt like I was stuck, and I asked for a little bit of assistance. I prayed to Mother Ayahuasca really deep into the space of ayahuasca. I directed myself to her and I said, I need a little bit more help, right? I need a little bit more assistance. And so then the teachers came, right? Some teachers from the Quero lineage, and I've been going really deep into Hindu cosmology, but they're actually, they shrunk, they shrunk whenever you hear about Soma. Whenever they hear about Soma, which is, there's some information, anthropological studies that say that Soma, which was the one of the only sacred medicines that Hindus would take, it was Amanita muscaria, the mushroom, the red and white mushroom. It doesn't really matter, but for the longest time, they have basically said like nothing external, right? Just the breath and yoga and sadhana and seva and your wisdom, right? The Vedas. So, but in itself, this is a natural path of Mother Earth. And so everybody gets the call. Everyone receives the call. Not everybody's ready to hear it. Not everybody can hear it because there's so much stuff to work on, right? I'm not gonna, listen to a call that says, come closer to this path of medicine, to devote yourself and align your life, devote yourself and align your life to a path that is, full of healing and medicine in such a way. Why not? A lot of people don't listen because there's so many other things that they have to worry about first, right? A lot of safety that they have to deal with. And so there's a few that actually receive it, and you might be one of these. Now, after we hear it, not everybody's ready, and we've seen in the past, 6, 7 years, right about when the time I started coming up, in the ceremony, realms and the worlds and the whole thing, in 2016, 2017, that there's been a huge spike up of people just like you, just like me, but with the same calling. When I say the same is they receive the call and boldly, a lot of the times ignorantly, they purchased ayahuasca on Etsy back when it was still available on Etsy, or online, ayahuasca for sale, and they go and they become shamans right away after maybe some people I've knew that they started serving bufo and ayahuasca after 4 or 5 ayahuasca ceremonies, and some people immediately after Bufo is like, this is for everyone. And the stories are, you'll hear some of the stories of what happens, right? And, thank God, that we had some preparation, specifically me, Manuel, we've had, a very arduous and very uh, formal formation, hence the redundancy, but it's been a preparation, right, with specific teachers from Colombia, from Peru, a few Brazilian ones. But more than anything, it's the Quero foundation of the understanding, which is the spirituality that all of the regions around the Inca Empire have gathered all of their wisdom. So when you go to the Shipibo or the Matzes, the Quechua spiritual understandings, they derived it from the spirituality of the Inca Empire back then. And obviously their own device with, a lot of ayahuasca and connecting to the jungle, connecting to Mother Earth, but a lot of the times Mother Ayahuasca instructs specific shamans, maestros, and taitas from the jungles of Colombia and Peru. And Mother Ayahuasca and Yahe themselves, the spirit of them, will tell very, very specifically the shamans that they don't have power over what the situation is happening with a specific participant, and the instruction for Mother Ayahuasca to these shamans is like, this is out of your realm, out of your depth, even though they've been devoted for, they are grown, they basically are brought up in the culture and the traditions. And for Mother Ayahuasca to instruct them, to send them to the Andes, can give you a little bit of point of reference of, why wouldn't they be able to help, right? Because the cosmology is a little bit more pure up in the mountains. And so this is the merging that Pachamama Sacred Paths does is we are devoted to the plant and to Mother Earth herself with the perspectives and understandings of the Quero cosmology, Andean cosmology, whether it is Huascar or the Quero. And the reason for this is because the Quero, I've done quite a bit of Buddhism. For years I did Zen Buddhism. I did Hindu through a few different gurus. I walked with a few gurus, and I walked with a few Pampang Sayos and Alpang Sayos, got initiated in the whole thing. So I have a little bit, obviously the Christian, the Christ consciousness, Gnosticism, and everything. That's all, great. However, when it comes to the cosmology of the Andes hold, similar to the Hindu also, right? But in a more pure way, not altered by time and politics and religion and conquest and impositions from the Spanish conquest and all of those things. The Quero and Andean cosmology in general, they hold the roots of wisdom that dates back to the origins of humanity, the origins of existence, really, of this 3D realm, 3D world. And so, when you put that into perspective, we have a lot to learn, from these cosmologies. And when we put all of this together, this is where the Hampeq level begins. And so, what happens when we are not prepared? What happens when someone that listens to the call of Mother Ayahuasca, because she broadcasts to everybody, awaken, heal, and become, right? And this is the message from her. And so somebody listens to it and is like, okay, it's like, and they take it quite literal, right? And then they go and they start that they buy ayahuasca, they buy bufo, and then they hold spaces. And unfortunately, what happens from this is a lot more trauma, right? They end up traumatizing entire groups. I had an old teacher that he never was experienced or initiated with a Salvia Divinorum. So he wasn't experienced, or he had a few experiences himself, but he knew how to hold space. And then, I heard that, it was a group of like 15 people in Tulum, and everybody lost their mind. Everybody like went to like a catatonic state because the space was not prepared. It was too much medicine. There was a lot of different factors, right? And these type of things happen to people when they don't have a proper foundation. He was my teacher back then, and still I love him. These mistakes happen, once in a while, but this is what we're trying to prevent with this initiation of the Hampeq. What happens when someone goes into an exorcism? What happens when someone goes into psychotic break? Right? What is happening to the mind, to the emotions? What's happening to the soul? Right? What kind of energies are the people carrying from within? They're very ancestral energies. Maybe, 20, 30,000 years ago, they made a contract with this entity that has been with their soul, part of it at a very, very deep level subconsciously. And then sometimes these things come up. And this is what people, call the exorcisms, et cetera, et cetera. So the deep healing, this is very different. What we do here is very different than what you hear about, like these spa retreats in Costa Rica or different places, because we do not shun or we do not shut off the door to the existence of these aspects. Why? Because these are teachers to reconcile so that the person can become what Mother Ayahuasca is calling them to be, right? So we are setting the foundation in these retreats that we hold space in, so that properly there is an evolution of the soul at all levels, not just the mind, right? And not just superficial, because a lot of the times they do ayahuasca very superficially and full of comforts and all of this. And it's not to be in a fight with the ego, shunning away the comforts, but it is really important to understand the balance in between threshold, pushing through and crossing over some specific breakthroughs, crossing through those thresholds, and how the comforts really affect, right? So the Hampeq initiation is for anyone that has heard the call to work with the sacraments. And because of the cosmology, we do it in Aini. And Aini is right relationship. So we have to be in right relationship first and foremost with the medicine. And we have to understand, and create a really in-depth relationship with all of the medicines that we as an organization commune with. This is Mother Ayahuasca, Niño Santos, San Pedro, Peyote, Bufo, Japé, Sananga, Temazcal, which is a medicine that we do. And then also there's a few other medicines that are, not as common, but we also partake on different retreats, like mambe, right? Coca leaf, and mapacho, pure mapacho, and a few other things like that, like chilcahue, chiricsanango, bobinsana, there's a few different ones, yawarpanga, and these are part of the experience of the organization as a whole. We've had communion and share these medicines, Chihuahuaco with hundreds of people that have come through initiations and retreats themselves. Why? Because it is all part of Mother Ayahuasca, Mother Earth. I'm sorry. It is all part of nature, and so that's what the Hampeq is. The Hampeq is a priest. It's a level of priest. You start at Runa and then you go to Hampeq. Runa is the very first level of awakening, which a lot of you guys, if you're able to discern the call from Mother Ayahuasca, like a lot of you guys have, then that means that you're already tuned into the level of Hampeq. You just need a little bit of reconciliation of ideas and things like that. But spiritually speaking, at a soul level, you're opened up to this. You're able to receive this. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. It would, otherwise the word Hampeq or this path wouldn't even resonate for you to log into this moment right now. And so the fact that it is a possibility for you, it is already, that's the first sign. If you're here, that's the first sign to me, right? Why? Because it's important to acknowledge, right, that you have that receptivity open already. Now, having it open is not the same as being ready. And so the Hampeq initiation is a preparation for you to become ready. And so it's 15 days where you have very in-depth processes with ayahuasca and very in-depth processes with bufo, where you learn to understand what the spaces of each of the medicines are tangibly, right? Obviously, there's a lot of theory throughout the days. There's a lot of rites of passage for the Munaiki rites, where you understand what does it mean to be a healer, the different bells of power and energy that you have, at all times, how to integrate different archetypes in different chakras, to have a little bit more mastery and skillful dominion, right, of your energy and your environments. Because if you're going to be serving medicine, anyone that is called to work with any medicines, right, then we need to understand who am I in front of all of the mirrors that present to me, right, present in front of me. And so to be able to be a good manager of energy in spaces, we need to know ourselves. We definitely need to know the depths of our shadow. And you know, there's two paths that people can take after this initiation, right? There's the path of working on your own, and at the very least, you're not going to be traumatizing your circles, which is one of the main reasons why we do this, right? And then there's the opportunity of working with Pachamama, working with your organization. So if you do it on your own, if you're like, no, you know what, like I had a vision of doing my own retreat center, I already have a lot of resources lined up. I just need the ABCs of how to do this. Perfect, no problem. That's completely acceptable. And we've hosted people, a lot of people that have gone through that route, and we are in complete alignment with what they're doing. And not necessarily, the processes, their protocols and things like that might be different, but we respect dearly and very with a high degree of love. We respect their inspirations to continue evolving consciousness in the way they're doing it. There's people that have done women only ceremonies, which we also do in Pachamama, and other things, right? To give you an example, Kendall just a lot of you guys know Kendall. She's a Hampeq now, and she's gonna open up a whole pathway for the organization where she's gonna be helping veterans, mostly veterans, right? And so she's gonna be dealing with a lot of hucha, of trauma and things like that in her circles, right? And so obviously that requires preparation. There's other people that have expressed interest in LGBTQ. Those are different pathways that can open up. And so working with Pachamama requires a few things. The first thing that it requires for you to become affiliated with Pachamama to hold space in the ways that we do is module 1, which is the path from Pacha to Runa, to be at the very least about 6 months in it, right? Working with the warrior threshold and the merchant threshold. And then the priest threshold is received at the Hampeq anyways. And so those 3 thresholds of module 1 are required for you to be able to hold space. The priest is going to be polished little by little. Obviously, you're not going to be sent into a ceremony that you're going to be able to serve 20, 25 people. You begin slow, little by little, right? Taking steps to understand how does it feel to connect, to hold space, who am I in front of a group, etc. And so we start little by little, right? And that's a personal power threshold that you will have to cross when the time comes, because a lot of people is like, I got everything, but they get stuck, it's like not believing in themselves. And so the Hampeq initiation is that threshold, is showing you that you can do it if you want to do so, right? But there's each of the ceremonies in the medicines that we work with have 3 purposes. Completely being the first ceremony is a heroic dose where you absolutely get completely lost in the process. You surrender into the void of each of the medicines, and you allow yourself to be completely immersed and lost, right, in the space, so that you can understand a lot more of your depths and see what is it that happens to you in those spaces, right? And so catharsis, a lot of purging, and all sorts of things, right? There's no necessity to fight it or anything. It's just allow yourself to be one with, and I'm sharing a little bit of what happens in the Hampeq, right? The second ceremony is not as deep, still a very big dose, but not as a profound as a heroic dose. Still, now we have a whole day to understand what does it mean then to be present and hold space for myself in those depths, right? How can I hold space for myself? What does it mean to be completely immersed and at the same time be able to choose to stand up and beat my drum for myself? Be your own shaman. And then the last thing is hold space for others, when you learn to consecrate, where you learn to make medicine. And so how to prepare it, how to dissolve it, how to conjure it, how to consecrate it, right, in a traditional, very respectful, devotional way. And so this is the process for all of the medicines that we go through. Having a deep relationship with Mapacho also, right, with Kambu, and understanding the thresholds of the ego at each of those levels, because you're going to take the ego through this initiation with you. It's not about killing the ego, it's about bringing the ego up so that you can know that you, as the ego, as the I can do this, right? I can have those vulnerable parts of myself be brought up into these moments so that they can serve a higher calling. And so The Munaiki initiations is something that you will receive, and these are 9 different initiations, the 9 different rites of passage that you go through, and each of these is learning how to be a healer. What does it mean to be a healer? How to use the power that you have as a healer. Becoming a runa, a pampamisayo, because those are the seeds of each of the levels of the kapahyan. So you receive the seed of the pampamisayo, of the alto misayok, receive, and you connect to the lineages of alto misayos. This does not make you a pampamisayok, alto misayok, pura hakuyek, and so on and so forth. It doesn't make you any of that, but you receive the seeds so that you have a proper way forward that you is going to be your responsibility to nourish, cultivate those seeds, and be able to, provide those seeds with the proper type of food, light, soil. That obviously these are metaphors, right? But you provide them with the necessary elements so that these seeds can begin to germinate and grow. And these are the levels of consciousness that you will continue to ascend into, right? And so some of them are very, very powerful. People go into shock and, like ecstatic with no medicine, of course, right? Some of them are with medicine, the higher ones like the Mosok Karpai, right? Or the Taitanchis Ranchis, which is the last one. That those do include a little bit of medicine because we're talking at a cosmological level now. We're talking about, star beings that are part of our cosmology that are invoked and you received specific, points so that you don't lose track of what your ascension path is. And so all of it is a very comprehensive. There's 2 temascales where you learn the basics of it, and then when you want to do it, it's up to you. But you learn the ABCs to prepare a ceremony, to understand what can happen. What does it mean when someone goes through something really difficult, and how do we activate the wisdom within so that we don't fall into savior, that we don't fall into victim, when something negative is happening in a ceremony, and maintain the space of healing really well established, right? So this is 15 days of transformation. On top of this, we will go to integrate specific energies from some temples here in Mexico. Now, in all of America, the energy of the dragon, it's in Mexico. It's Quetzalcoatl. You look in the south, there's not the archetypes of dragons, at least not in the Huascar and the Quero tradition. But the dragon is that archetype, from Aztec and Mayans. Mayans appropriated it also, right? They were in contact with the Aztecs, the Mayans, and they understood the importance of what the Quetzalcoatl is. And so we're gonna go to the temples of Quetzalcoatl in Tepoztlan, in Xochicalco, and possibly also in Amatlan. But we go to these temples so that we can be so that we can receive very powerful energy of Quetzalcoatl, which is he who lives on earth and on heaven at the same time. Quetzalcoatl is the feathered serpent. So it's the snake with wings, right? And so this feathered serpent, this dragon, it's soaring through the Hanak Pacha, through the heavens, through the fifth dimension, but at the same time is very grounded in the here and now. And obviously it's a process of integration, but we receive that energy, and people have had some very, very profound experiences biologically speaking, right? We had a participant last time that she has a condition in her arm and she couldn't move her arm, and after some of the initiations she's like moving the whole thing, right? And so on and so forth. There's different manifestations of what can happen. So the main thing that I want to make sure that everybody here understands, all of you guys need to understand that this is not a walk in the park, right? This requires a lot of endurance on your part, because your body's gonna be tested. When we go up to the Tepoztlan pyramid, to the Teposteco, it's about 1.5 miles of stairs, right? So it's like a physical endurance. It's a pilgrimage aspect, right? Where it's an intentional walk of any type of physical issue. We leave it there. We use the pain, right? Not in a masochistic way, but in a transmutational way, in a way that it allows us to leave any type of resistance, any type of self-doubt. And when you get there and you receive this, there is a reconciliation of all of that pain that then now empowers you through informing. You're way more connected to your body, and then you go through specific aspects like enduring two temazcales, which are very hot spaces, sweat lodges. Temazcal is a sweat lodge where you are able to understand the element of fire within you, right? And you're able to put that fire from Mother Earth, from all of the abuelas, all of the grandmother stones, and then you're able to put it in your heart, and it is burning there for the rest of eternity consciously. You can say like, no, I'm already a god or a goddess. Yes, but consciously. And so we begin first with the elements, right? And then once we start to manage everything that the Hampeq deals with is with the four elements, everything from flora, all of the natural plants, not just power and allies, power allies and sacred plants, but all plants, lavender, dandelion, every single plant is got a specific essence and consciousness that is there to assist you understand yourself in a better way. So the Hampeq uses all of flora, all of fauna, the four elements, right, in the space of the Kausai Pacha. The Kausai Pacha is, you can think about it as the astral plane, to just put it in simple terms. It's a lot more complex, and you'll understand a lot more about that. But this is what a Hampeq is. Why is it necessary? Because you need to understand what is this dimension, what is the next dimension, and then to be able to reach the fifth dimension, or a dimension of love, the dimension of flow, right? Which is the Hanak Pacha, the heavens, the pure energy type of states, bliss, joy, high elevated type of energies. That is something that to be experienced, we need to see everything that is in between here and now, which is this 3D, and then be able to take steps towards it. And so understanding everything that the Hampeq is part of that transition, right? Especially when you're serving medicine, because the astral plane is very active. What do we do when some energies come from outside? That probably means that we didn't open sacred space in a proper way. What happens when someone has contracts with Santeria or Voodoo, and those are the type of participants that want to heal from those same things? Do we say no? Of course not. Everybody has the right, the divine right to heal, and that's what we're there for, to provide this space. But how do we do it when there's a big entity that is coming, that is affecting the whole group, everybody purging at the same time and losing their mind, right? What do we do in these spaces? It is really important to understand ourselves. What is my truth, your truth, and your responsibility in front of those type of situations. So it is a whole new world of understanding that requires preparation and experience, right? You're going to receive the experience and preparation, but then, as a Hampeq, for those of you guys who are called to follow a path like this, then there is practice and practice and practice and ceremony and ceremony, and a few months pass, 6 ceremonies that you guide, and you start to go deeper into yourself. You recognize more of your shadow. You start to reconcile more of your path, right? And then what comes is ceremonies that are harmonious and healing in ways that are, transcendental to everybody, right? People, a lot of the times, they don't require more medicine for a long time because they heal so much that they go into this cycle of like, poof, and then they stay in a plateau, right? Until they're called again by their soul to reconcile more of their shadow. But, definitely one of the things that you don't see very often in Pachamama is people coming ceremony, and every ceremony, and at the beginning I won't lie to you, at the beginning, while we were on this process, I and my mom was in this process, we had the usual, every ceremony that you have, I'm going to be there. And so people were coming 2 times a month, sometimes every month or so, with some people with a well-defined purpose of spiritual introspection, and some people just because they wanted to be in contact with it, right? Not necessarily achieving any growth. And so nowadays, our ceremonies, the ceremonies that I guide or that Manuel guides, they're very coherent, right? Because the space is in alignment with true healing, and the understanding aspect, is very well grounded. So, what does this mean? This means that we have a preparation path that, makes us efficient. The Hampeq is an efficient healer with all of the elements of the Hampeq consciousness. So, in short, that's obviously briefly, right? Now we have a more detailed, explanation of what happens, what takes place. I'm gonna try to share my screen here so you guys can see, a little bit more of what. So here you go to initiations and then Hampeq Karpay. Oh, we go to Apu Popocatépetl also. Now, in our tradition, you get presented at each of the levels of consciousness that you go, all the way up to Misayo, Alto Misayo. You go to an Apu to receive an initiation. And so the initiation is acknowledged by the Apu, and we receive gifts of rain, we receive gifts of animals that come, different things happen, right? And so Apu Popocatépetl and Apu Iztaccíhuatl, we have, an active volcano, which is Popocatépetl, and then we have its feminine counterpart, the masculine and the feminine of the heart, right? And a lot of people say like, no, the heart is feminine. Every chakra has masculine and feminine, right? Masculine and feminine expression, masculine expression, etc. So we go to the Apus as well. So to understand a little bit more, there's a few articles over here about the Munaiki rites, what happens, how many ceremonies is all everything over here, initiations. There's a flowering bath. It includes all accommodations and meals. There's understanding of why is it here in Apu Popocatépetl. Not only because it's the heart chakra of Pachamama, of Mother Earth, in these times, since 2012, when the Kundalini of the planet came from the Himalayas to the Americas, starting with Apu Aconcagua in Argentina, that's the root chakra, and it goes all the way up to Mount Denali. And so Apu Popocatépetl is considered by Native Americans of the US, Alaska, and South America. We are right here in the heart center. So talking about Quetzalcoatl, who is present and it is connected well to the ground and well to the heavens, well to Mother Earth and well to the heavens, is right here is the heart chakra. This is why we do this here. When I came to Mexico, I was planning to go and live in Peru, but it called me here. The Apus called us here, called Pachamama Secret. That's here to be here. So there's a little bit of information, both from some anthropologists. Some of them are famous from our lineage. They're also from the Quero lineage, right? And it talks a little bit about the root chakra and everything else. Now, somewhere in here, I think I missed this right here. This is download the full invite. It takes you to the second where it tells you a little bit about everything, what to bring and whatnot. And so when you open it up, it gives you, a rundown of the 2-week initiation, right? Everything a little bit about it's very similar to what you do, right? But, some of the principles that we're going to be able to look into, everything that it contains, some additional fees, the AINI, the retreat AINI, if you want shared or private accommodations. This includes pretty much everything, right? And the brief summary of what happens at each day, right? Now, there's a more detailed, I'm not sure if this is it. I think I have it over here. So there's a more detailed explanation, right, of what happens, some of the themes and subjects, specifically some of the rituals right here with the Cosco, Soncoñawi, Cuncañawi, the elements and all of that. Obviously, you're going to receive a very comprehensive handout of everything that is going to happen, right? When it's going to take place, all of this stuff, and you will receive it once you arrive, of course, right? But it is a comprehensive process that, it is also one of the things that is important to understand. That is, it's an intensive 2 weeks, right? You're not deprived of sleep or food by no means, but the foods are very much in alignment with the process of the Hampeq. We don't eat any meat until we celebrate at the end. For those who have communion with animal protein, you're able to have some Mexican tacos if you want, and kind of like immerse yourself with that. And obviously we have some understandings of the Quero about what food is and how it is properly used and what for and how, right? But there's the whole time is a very not so much austere because we have a lot of fruit and avocados and things like that, but definitely you're not going to have your sweet tooth type of cravings that compensates an emotional thing, because that's actually also another purpose, right? The way that we design this is so that you have breakthroughs, and for that we need to shake the ego a little bit, right? So that it loses the hold some of the ideas that create comfort for us, and we can go deeper into ourselves, have a deeper transformation. But you're not going to be cold or hot. You're not going to be maybe hot a little bit. I mean, maybe cold because it's already October, but within means, because the center of Mexico is always pretty 60s to 80s. It's not really that bad. But it is definitely an intense workshop, intense initiation. Every day there's an initiation. Every day there's a ceremony. There's only 2 days that there's nothing, that are rest days, in between and at the end, right? Where we get to just like chill and do absolutely nothing. More than not doing anything, is we use it to integrate. There's still some talks, but no medicine or no Munaiki rituals, right? So that's a little bit of a gist of what this is, right? Now, after saying all of this, I'd like to connect with you guys and see if you have any specific questions, any more about the logistics, the pickup times, rooms, accommodations, or anything like that. We do offer installment payments from now until then, and because we realize that, sometimes it's not as for some people economy flows, for some people doesn't, and it's an INI thing, right? It's a personal, deserving aspect, and deserving of worth aspect, and we understand that. We've gone through this through that ourselves, right? And in many levels, this is the game of life. How much do you really feel that you're worth and you deserve, right? So, anyways, any questions, guys? Any comments?
I have a question. So, for those that have already taken the path to Runa, or like for myself that's in it right now, is there any other preparation that takes place prior to that, that is that is structured as part of that?
No, the only other thing that would be suggested, obviously, to come aboard, there is for example, if you wanted to stay with Pachamama, and one of the things that I didn't mention, thank you so much for asking, brother. I'm gonna get to the bottom of your question in just a second. But one of the things that I want to also show you of what does it mean to work with Pachamama, right? So it's actually, I think, might be here. No. So then it's gonna be, and this is something that is an internal document that, not a, that it's obviously private. So there's about 5 people. There's 4 people full time, and there's like another 5 people that are, on and off part time, that are doing a lot of work with Pachamama. Everything from social media to, keeping the back end really well organized, keeping all of the retreats going. So some of the things that you see here is, the coupon codes, right? The early birds, the forms. Each of the retreats have individual forms with the specific themes that you choose. What you choose as a theme for your retreats. Everything gets added to Google Calendar so that it integrates with the website. The questionnaires, there's automatic welcome emails, and from Wix and from the CRM. The Airbnb, obviously these ones don't have Airbnb because they're all Zoom courses that I provide, so they don't need, right? But the Airbnb with all of the check-in, check-out. Some of them are retreat centers, some of them are not, with the addresses. The flyers are made in 3 different sizes: flyers for Meetup, flyers for Linktree, Wix, and none of this. Working with Pachamama, you don't have to do any of this, right? Posting everything in Eventbrite and Meetup, in Facebook, etc., right? Like Facebook ads, head plus heart. I don't know why they're not feeling this. I'm gonna take a look into what's going on with this. But so we have a group of people, including myself, of course, right, that we're always, on top of the organization of the details, right? It's really important. And as a team, right? We have the direction team, which is this, the direction team, which is 8 of us right now. And it's Kendall, myself, Manuel, Dia, Donnie, Yvonne, Chelsea. Titin is actually, yeah, so it's really 7 of us. This is my best friend who's, the IT. He's my best friend from childhood. So here in the direction team, once coming aboard as a Hampeq, then you get to be in the direction team of the whole organization. You get to choose the new directions for Pachamama. Like I was sharing with you guys, Kendall is choosing to expand Pachamama in the direction of working with people that are, have been traumatized by wars and things like this, with a lot of PTSD and veterans. And so, not just men, women also, of course, but also specific decisions that we have to take as an organization as how to deal with this or how to deal with that. Everything from sales to legalities to applying for exemptions to distribution of INI, investments in properties, things like this, development of volunteer programs, development of courses. Everything happens as a team. And this direction team is, you would then become part of this also, right? Also, one of the things, going to that file that I was showing you earlier, this right here tells you, for example, Mount Shasta, right? We had, about 13 people. I think Christian, I'm not sure if you were here, brother. No. So this is a retreat that Manuel did, right? And so, it was 19.3 plus all of the expenses, almost like, 20 grand for that weekend. And after all of the expenses, which were, there's something wrong here. I don't know exactly what it is, but after the 2,300, I think it was in between, let me see, $3,800 of expenses for this retreat. So then the net is 15.2, and Manuel takes 75% of it, right? And Pachamama takes, 4,300. This $4,300 is not just for the organization. There's another file that it's, I'm not sure if this is it. Yep. So there's like obviously all of this, back end, expenses and everything, but the division. So there's a 25% that everybody gets, it gets divided. Some portion stays with Pachamama, and then the other portion gets, let's see, is it? All of this would be part of what you guys can see, but it is similar to this. I'm not sure where it is because this is what VNA takes care of. But basically, there's from the retreats, initiations, from the memberships, from the pre-recorded courses, microdoses, individual sessions that we have, there's always a 25% that gets allocated. And for example, Manuel, I don't know if you guys remember, Manuel had an appendix removed, and he was out, and he's still out until a few months. And so Pachamama is supporting him, even though that he's not working, because he's part of the direction team. Of course, he comes to all of the meetings and everything, and he still directs, the flow and puts his insight into it, right? It's a more perspective to be considered, which is a lot of experience and more than a decade of working with medicines and groups and things like this. But then he's being supported by Pachamama, by the community and by Pachamama in these times that he's not working. He's not working until September, and he's receiving still part of that 25% that everything that the organization gets. So from the shamanic initiation, I know a lot of you guys are in the shamanic initiations, and part of your monthly AINI goes towards Manuel, right? And part of it goes towards Chelsea, and part goes towards everybody, right? So there's a distribution, a little bit of a, capitalism combined with a little bit of socialism, if you may, or I'm not sure if it's socialism or communism. I'm not that well versed in that type of other than capitalism politics. But so the way that we did this, we chose to do this, it was obviously my idea, and is for a few things. First and foremost, to allocate for a lot of these expenses that I was showing you. Sometimes it's $1,500 of expenses for a retreat. Sometimes it's $3,000-4,000, depending on how many people, depending on what the Hampeq wants to do, the type of medicines, if it's 3 days or 4 days or 7 days, like Chelsea's having one in October. And so there's different kinds of things, right? So going back to your question, do you mind repeating it now with all of this context? Do you mind repeating your question, please, brother?
It was really just around what other preparation, like if you accepted me into this,
Very good.
is there any other preparation that
Yes.
leading up to the
It is
ceremonies?
it is not just a preparation, but it is an official presentation that you would go into a Pachamama only ceremony where you're gonna be sitting with all of the Hampeqs. Obviously, you already had the preparation that you received here in Mexico, and then you go back to the States, and we do this 4 times a year. We're having one in August. Right now, August 3rd is one of the Pachamama only team, right? And so sometimes it's 7 people, sometimes is 12 people, but these ceremonies are complimentary from Pachamama. The only thing that is paid for is for the space in between everybody that goes. So if it's overnight from Friday to Saturday, and Friday to Saturday is 10 people, it's one night for 10 people is usually like about $600, so everybody pays like $60, plus the medicine. So it's like a very, very symbolic, and just to keep things so that we're not carrying you, or you're not carrying anything else than what it is. So it's just the Aini really balanced. And so, for this one's gonna be like 135, $150, for the ceremony. I think Christian's gonna be there. And so you attend this ceremony where you're gonna have a full dose, right? Where you can show that you have the capacity to hold space for yourself, not for anybody else, but just for yourself. And that right there is a recognition in between you and Manuel, you and Chelsea, Donnie, Kendall, and Yvonne, and everybody, so that you can communicate in the astral space, in a very self-contained way, where you can make an official presentation of yourself to the team, and the team can embrace you also, right? And that's the way that it is. It is a very organic type of welcoming into the Pachamama space, right? So that we all stand behind you in the moment that you go and serve your medicine, right? If there's someone that notices, for example, Manuel says, like, you have take a look at this, pay attention to that, it would be just a suggestion. It wouldn't be like you're not ready, unless you're truly not ready. We have had Hampeqs that want to come aboard and they're really not ready, right? They cannot hold space for themselves. Just a little bit of medicine completely shakes them, right? And so they're more driven by the idea of becoming shamans rather than holding space for healing, right? They're not ready. They have a lot of healing to do still, and this happens sometimes, right? However, and it's still not a requirement to go through these suggestions that we say. People that want to go and continue doing this type of of this type of work, serving medicine and holding space, they can do it on their own, right? Excuse me. If you're welcome to the team, then all really that is required is just because I know you well, brother. I know that you are. I know you well, because we've had enough discussions, and I understand that we're on this path moving forward, right? There's not a degree of enlightenment that is required, right? It's not like we have to be enlightened and have no hucha. That never really happens, right? You talk to Eckhart Tolle and he'll tell you, like, privately, of course, right? Yes, I still get shaken by X, Y, or Z, right? And he's still doing his job, right? Otherwise, the guy would have disappeared and transcended into light or something like that. It's like at the service of something higher than talking about the ego and things like this. So there's obviously purpose in everything that we do, and all of the lessons. But one of the false beliefs that collective spirituality has is that you have to be enlightened so that you can be serving medicine, right? Or you can be teaching something. But they discard the humanity completely, right? It's like you cannot be human, right? And it's not about not being human, it's about converting ourselves, transforming ourselves into human beings. And as long as we can have presence and be contained, in a space of medicine that is, pretty substantial, then that's more than enough, right? I mean, you heard the call, and then the call's being answered. Step one. Step two, you go through the whole preparation, and now it's the experience to come, right? Now, don't get me wrong, like there's going to be Hampeqs that they're still growing through specific areas, right? And this is how we grow together as an organization, like make these adjustments. So, yeah, does that answer your question, brother?
It does. Thank you.
Right on. Cool. Did you have some questions? Oh, I see your question. It says, does the sitting happen before or after the Hampeq? It happens after. Now, as a Hampeq, if you're working with Pachamama after being a Hampeq, you have now, if you're a volunteer, it's a different story. If you're a volunteer, you can come to all of the Pachamama only ceremonies and attend for, working with it, but there's some requirements to becoming a volunteer. But when it comes to the Hampeq, after the Hampeq, the sitting, at the Pachamama only ceremonies, it's a like an official presentation. And that right there is, takes place. I want to. So right now it's August 2nd and 3rd, and then the next one is to be announced, but it's going to be in November, and then the next one is November, Diciembre, enero, febrero. The next one is going to be in February, and then marzo, abril, mayo, and then the next one in May, and so on and so forth. Right, every 3 months we have them. That's
Are there any mandatory meetings that we attend prior to going to Mexico, or even after as well? Like to have like a yearly or monthly meetings or anything for the team members?
There are, yes. Let me share with you right here. I thought I was sharing my screen earlier, sorry. So there are some volunteer meeting dates, and there's one every month, right? Like right now, there's one coming on the 24th, right? Now, these are for volunteers. Now, for people coming to the Hampeq, there is not. There is not. There is suggested that you go and sit with Donnie, go and sit with Chelsea, go and sit with, and this would be as participants so that you can observe from afar, so you can continue doing your work, first and foremost, continue to do your work under the specific guidance of all of the teachings of the Hampeqs that are guiding those ceremonies, of course. And then also so that you can start to have a close relationship with the team, because if you're coming aboard as a Hampeq, being part of the team, we need a connection between us. I've sat with every single person. I've sat with Donnie, Chelsea, and they've all sat in between themselves. They've all sat with Manuel, and Manuel and I are, you can consider us a little bit of, the experience, although we always welcome people. If anybody wants to join, like for example, we're meeting someone that is a shaman that wants to come to the Hampeq in Mexico, that I think the gentleman's like 70 something, 72, 73. And he has been a shaman of different traditions, except he never took that step of becoming a space holder officially, right? He does it sporadically whenever spirit calls him, but he has his 9 to 5. He used to work in the government and things like that. But so he's thinking of coming aboard, and we've had a lot of conversations where he's definitely in alignment. I mean, I can sense him even from afar. He's got a really good presence, and obviously he's coherent with his thought and experience, and obviously he's got years of experience also with multiple medicines. And so someone like him coming in, then it would come also with a high degree of respect to be considered, right? Now, someone that is just new to the path and has the ABCs is also welcome, right? And so not to say that any input is considered less or more, but when it's time to have conversations in the integration meetings or in the direction meetings every Monday that we have as a team, then obviously we consider the experience more, right? We consider what resonates deeper the most, right? Not just whatever type of impulse. It's obviously common sense. I assume that you guys understand this. And so that the only thing that I would be, suggested, and recommended is that, you begin, if obviously if you're feeling Pachamama, right? If you're feeling like the working with Pachamama, is to begin knowing who you're going to be working with, right? Begin knowing them firsthand and talking, having medicine with them to feel their energy, right? And have a sense of, the principles of the cosmology in action, right? When each of them have a specific thing that they display from the cosmology. We all, are part of this Kapakyan path. So does that answer your question, Ku?
Yes, thank you.
Perfect. Claudia, I know that you were in a previous one of these ones before, and you're all into this, but do you have any questions, hermana?
No, it was good to listen again all the steps, because sometimes you forget, and that was good that I tune in. But no, everything is great. I'm just trying to work on my things too. I think I will recommend for everyone who wants to do the Hampeq is to do the breathing work, because from the moment that you start working on that, it start working on you. I haven't been able to share things with you guys, but since I start doing it again, oh my God, all these dreams that I've been having that I told Russell this is just blowing my mind every day. Every day I have, and there's some things that I have to work with myself, especially in letting go, because I'm always because like I was abandoned from my mother, so I have to work on that. To let go, to not to have control of everything, to let others to help me and not just be on my own. And that it's just like I've been having dreams like with people that I like. The other day when we were doing the breathing afterwards, I was dreaming with my godmother, which she was my teacher in my little school. It's like, how in the world am I dreaming with her? Why? So I think it's something that is from my from my childhood that I have to work on. So definitely I do recommend everyone who wants to do the Hampeq, and I did it before too, like when we started to do it last year, it was like that too. So it really works. The breathing works. I love it. I really, really love it. So that's my insight that I can say right now. If everyone wants to, start this, do the breathing, because it's beginning to work in our insides. So
yeah, and that's actually, thank you so much. Thank you, Claudia. Well, that's actually something that we're going to be doing on a daily basis together in the Hampeq as well. We wake up early to do this, right? We don't go to bed late, but there's going to be a few times that, especially the ceremony days, right, when we might end at 3 a.m. and we still wake up. We don't wake up at 6, we wake up at 7, right? And if there's there's going to be the ongoing class from people from the module 1 that are not coming, and then we record it, right? We don't record it. It's 7 o'clock here. It's 6 o'clock over there in California time. So anyways, we still continue with the daily practice, right? And all the way up to.
I had a question about that, because I work 12-hour shifts. So I normally, don't leave until about 7 or 7:30 on some days. Are the classes the same days every week?
Yeah, yes, cool. So I know that you're joining just now. The actual sessions, the module 1 initiations are Tuesdays and Thursdays at 11 a.m. Pacific. And the breath work is at 6 a.m. Pacific, Now, if you're at work at 11 a.m. and you cannot attend, then the sessions are recorded. Like I was showing you earlier, you can go to the programs and go to the module 1, and then you can see the recordings. For the most part, they're uploaded the same day. We're doing some revision of grammar, spelling, and vocabulary for all of them. So sometimes the handouts are not uploaded immediately because of these revisions that we're doing one by one, because this is a book that is going to be published at the end of the module. And but you'll get them within 24, 48 hours at the most. And the sessions themselves, the videos, the recordings are uploaded usually within hours, a few hours of the class. You can watch them at your own time. And then for the recordings of the Bradford, you're giving 2 samples. You're giving a short Kriya and a long Kriya. And once in a while, people want to ask for a fresh one. They don't want to follow the recorded one from before. They want to get like the one that was for the day. And sometimes we upload it. Like for example, today we uploaded one. Does that answer your question, Ku?
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. ¿Alguna pregunta, Christian? Any questions, brother?
Sí, ¿tú no lo haces aquí en USA?
Todavía no, brother. Todavía no.
Okay, yeah, I need to wait.
No así, pero después de un rato, si tomas módulo 2, if you take module 2, finish module 1, after you take module 2, maybe we can talk, we can talk about some adjustments that we can do with Manuel can help you over there. But it has to be after you finish module 1 and after you finish module 2, right?
Sure, I'm gonna do that.
Module 2 is the Hampeq. So yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any questions, David?
You said module 2 was the Hampeq?
Yes. So there's right now, as of right now, there's 3 modules. Obviously, there's only 2 published, but there's a third one that is going from Pacha to Runa, that's module 1, from Runa to Hampeq, that's module 2, and then from Hampeq to Pampa Misayok and Alto Misayok, that's module 3, but that won't be out until probably 2026. The only other way to get module 3 as like a 15 days and the pilgrimages. We have pilgrimages to Peru, and in Mauta Ausangate with the Quero themselves, we receive initiations of Pampa Misayok and Alto Misayok. Right now the Quero are only giving Pampa Misayok and Alto Misayok initiations in Mount Ausangate, right?
Okay.
And specifically given by Pampa Misayoks or Alto Misayoks. I received permission to give Pampa Misayok initiations here in Apu Popocatépetl. However, it is for Alto Misayok is only there. Pero straight from the source. Thank you. David, any questions, brother? David?
Hi. Yeah, thanks for having me. Just how much was it again for the 15 days?
For the 15 days is if you want a shared room, it's 4,444. The only thing that's not included is the shuttle back and forth to and from the airport. All of the other shuttles to Xochicalco, Tepoztlán, Popocatépetl. There's 2 times that we go to Tepoztlán, one to Teposteco, and another time to just enjoy the state. That is all included. Food, all of the lodging. So there's shared accommodations is 4,444 plus your tickets and $65 of the shuttles back and forth. If you wanted to do private accommodations, it's $4,999 plus your air tickets, your airfare, and the $65. We arrange the shuttles for you guys. You don't have to worry about how to get there back and forth, and yeah, it's like a nice.
Sorry, go ahead. What are the ticket prices now for flights and the airline?
I haven't checked, cool, but I'm thinking maybe like about 800 back and forth. I'm not sure. I just
Okay.
purchased
Where are we
mine.
going? Can you put it in the chat?
Yeah, you're going to Mexico City.
Mexico City.
Benito Juarez is called. Benito Juarez is the airport.
I'm probably able to take a lot of time off after my probation, and I have a 3-month probation at work. Also, I'm just wanting to better my whole life, and I believe I've been told I have a lot of energy and I'm aware of my powers, but I need more coaching on how to go about using them, or kind of pretty spiritual guy most of my life. Not sure, like I'm just good. That's my motto, is just be good. And uh I think this is really what I'm looking for, is something where I could be coached and taught. Like I have a coach. I'm gonna starting Monday, I'm gonna have a spirit coach basically. And I also have a spirit guide who I come to and clear energy and all these other things for my spirit. Um Sorry, I lost track of what my thought. I've been doing that a lot lately.
So the Hampeq initiation, there's a lot of people that come also to the Hampeq initiation, not necessarily to serve medicine, but just because of the depth of work that takes place, right?
Yeah.
It helps you not necessarily jumping into serving medicine, but establishing such a natural connection, organic connection with each of the sacraments really has a tremendous impact and really, really powerful transformation that is offered to you for your personality, right? For some energies that might not be in alignment. And like you said, yeah, of course, it's a coaching period, but you're also receiving that through module 1, right? Which is grounding. The first thing is to ground in the body, the here and now, right? Like understanding, what do we have to work with first and foremost, right? And that's all module 1. So yes, brother, I'm really happy that you continued with module 1, because then you're going to be able to, get to experience that. And that's the first step. After we have that, then if you want to go deeper into the Causa y Pacha, into the realms, and mastery more of the spaces within each of the sacraments, of course, definitely. So yes, this can be for sure of benefit like that to you, brother. Thank you, David. Gracias. Adriana, ¿tienes preguntas? Do you have any questions?
I don't think so. No questions. Thank you. This is really supportive. I do feel really called to work with the medicines. I'm at the beginning of my path, I feel like in that regard. The one thing that is hard for me is that I'm this whole provider of my kids, and my kids are still little, and so it's really hard for me to be away from them for 15 days. But I'm okay with like taking things slow in terms of, where I'm at in the initiation right now, and continuing to, go to retreats. But if could I think his name Christian, if he ever does anything with Manuel in the States, like I'm would be more than happy to do something like that too, and pay the ININ, the 444, if that's ever an opportunity.
Definitely,
Or
definitely.
Chelsea or Kendall, or any of the other Hampeqs, I would be willing to
It would
work
have
with
to
him.
be it would have to be with Manuel, right? And obviously
Okay.
it's a process that is not created yet. But
Yeah.
in case we can, then we have a perfect reason why to accelerate the creation of that process, because you're already well within module 2. So,
Okay,
yeah.
thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, open to that, but I am setting the intention, if not this time around, to maybe in a future one for sure, when my kids are a little older. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Gracias, hermana. Okay, so I have a question first from Steven. What was the question, brother? Is he here? Yeah, there you are.
Yeah. Oh man, I was getting a lot of information. I'm kind of clearing up. Okay, so just to be clear, the Hampeq is module 2. So if for some reason I can't make October and I finish the first module, the Path of Runa, I'll still have an opportunity to become a Hampeq or Hampeq, that path on module 2. Is that correct?
Yeah, that would be probably until, for you, it would be, we're looking at 2026.
Oh wow, 2026.
Yes, because I mean, if it's not coming to Mexico, then you have to finish all of module 1, which finishes in March, more or less, March or April. And then we wait about 3 months until we start module 2. We give 3 months of like integration, right? For people to be able to sustain themselves and really continue to practice. And sustaining is the most difficult thing. Going through an ayahuasca ceremony is great, but like sustaining all of the wisdom, that's where it takes skill and dedication, a deeper call to that. So 3 months of sustaining, and then people jump into module 2. And module 2, it's another 9 months. So we start marzo, abril, mayo, junio. We'll start in between June and July of 2025. And so it's a julio, agosto, septiembre, octubre, noviembre, diciembre, enero, febrero, marzo. About March or April of 2026, that's when, module 2 would end up for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. No, I definitely I want to go to the October. I want to be there. I don't know. I just gotta manifest, the
Mhm.
financial means to do it. But I have another question.
Yeah.
Maybe two. But the first one that comes to mind is, so I have zero experience with ayahuasca or like bufo, a little experience with rape or the hape, a little bit of mushrooms, and haven't took any heroic doses of anything really.
Yeah.
Does that matter as far as like going to the October Hampeq initiation?
It really does. It really does. Especially, I mean, it does if your purpose is to become part of Pachamama and begin this path of the Hampeq. There's some experience that is required first. You need to understand what ayahuasca does to you. And so a few times sitting with Mother Ayahuasca before, would be okay. If not, when you come, you have the teaching, right? You get you receive all of the information from the Hampeq. You go through the Karpai initiation, receiving the consciousness, the seeds. You receive your chalina, you receive everything that it is, all of the gifts that are given, right? The tangible symbols for the Hampeq consciousness that you receive as a gift. You the rites of passage, and then what is required from you is like, okay, it's like, for example, you go and for whatever reason you're invited to graduate from high school, but you're still in 4th grade, right? So then what happens is you receive your diploma from high school, right? And when it's time to go into your first semester of college, right, you're gonna have no fucking clue of what they're talking about. You need to go through, if you're in 4th grade, you need to go 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, all the way, past high school and the whole thing. It's required. They require the transformations, and more than the transformations, the integration of different precepts and concepts, right? There's a lot of wisdom that we need to experience first and foremost as a tangible experience from life, to be able to put it into perspective so that we can have a very conscious, how can I explain this? So we can have like a very it's like a cognitive process, right? Of what is really happening to us as we're going through the ABCs. So yes, it is very much required, brother. Now, what this means is, after, if you are called to the Hamp, then great, right? You wouldn't come into the direction team right away, because probably when they give you, it's not, I cannot assume, brother. Your soul might be completely ready, and it could truly be that you push through, all of the aspects, and you do all of the crying that you needed to do, and you do all of the grieving and the reconciliation, and then you go to the presentation, and everybody accepts you, and then you're in. I cannot say yes or no, but what it is going to be required for sure is a little bit of experience, more and more. So then in those cases, these are specific type of scenarios, right? When you don't have years of experience with the sacraments, then what you're going to have to be provided with is with medicine, so that you begin having your own ceremonies, right? And so at home, you take a cup of ayahuasca, on a weekend. you integrate it, you come to all the integration sessions, you continue in the path of learning. And then when you feel ready, right, you begin with your first ceremony, and it's a small ceremony, 3, 4 people, and then so on and so forth. You start to get experience like this. This is what Donnie did also. Although Donnie did do module 1 fully, and then he did, a few ceremonies, with Manuel, and he was volunteering, he was helping, and then he got called to the Hampeq and he did it. But very fresh into the spiritual path, right? And he's serving medicine. He's working with groups of 14 people, which everybody has like beautiful experiences, and so can it happen like that? Yes, of course. But it's a very different case. We're all different, right? We don't have like a formula that says this is what you need. It's a step by step, and we have to see the levels of awareness and consciousness of anybody that wants to come in. Fortunately or unfortunately, we don't go by those terms, but what is going to happen is we're going to have to observe what are some of the tangible observations, what are the tangible and objective fruits of the consciousness of that person. Meaning, can the person hold space for himself or herself? Can the person navigate clearly the spaces that he or she wants to facilitate? Right? If you want to facilitate a space of healing, and in a space, when you present yourselves, you lose your mind. Well, welcome to Pachamama. You're not ready to serve yet, right? You continue doing some work, and then when the time is and there's coherence within you and the whole thing, you attend another one, and you start to present yourself as a little bit more evolved in that space within yourself, right? And so this has to be observable by everybody that is in the tribe, right? And so there's been times there was a participant in the Hampeq last time, and this person came, and the person was not ready. I don't want to get into many of the details, but there was like a sour pain of like there was a feeling of rejection, and it wasn't rejection, right? It was just not yet, right? It's not yet.
Right.
It's not yet the time. Why? Because if we don't have a handle of ourselves, then again, what happens is like the person who just buys ayahuasca and wants to facilitate, and they create more trauma, right? And now this is a delicate thing, right? When the person doesn't have a really grounded hold of themselves, then it is a delicate thing even for the organization as a whole. Liability, right? People going at risk, and not knowing how to handle different energies and emotions and states of consciousness. Then it's a serious thing, right? It's not. It's a something that we're called, and we have to learn first and foremost for ourselves. What does that mean? Does that make sense, brother?
Yeah, no, total sense, and I'm all on board with. I take very seriously how I care for somebody's soul, even in giving information. Certain information I've learned that I know that, like, for myself, it made me feel like I was gonna go crazy at one point. You know what I mean? Expanding our consciousness. You know what I mean? Different paradigm shifts. It could really, like, if you ain't ready, it could really mess your mind up. And so I take that very seriously, man. I know there's a karmic debt to be paid, and I don't play with that kind of stuff, man. So if I'm not ready, I for sure I take no quarrel about that. Like, yeah, I'm good. I was just more asking because I don't know. I just felt the need to bring that forth. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So would you suggest that I don't come to October and just kind of continue on module 1 and kind of come to maybe some first come to some a ritual? I mean, excuse me, not ritual, retreats.
Yeah.
And
So like I was telling David, everybody, and telling you also, like, everybody's different, right? So the initiation of the Hampeq, like a really good friend of mine, Kevin King, he's in the East Coast. He came, and from the get-go, he's like, I don't want to serve right now. Maybe later, and if it calls me strongly, then great. But the medicine called him not to serve; it called him for the transformation, right? So it really depends on your calling, brother. Everybody's different. If you're called by it, then answer the call, at the very least, in communication to the source of the call, right? So if it's Mother Ayahuasca or the Kapahyan or your soul calling you for this because you're here right now, then my suggestion would be inquire, right, if this is the right time, the first thing, and two, if you know, if this is going to be for serving or for the transformation that will prepare you forward, right? After you receive something like this, you've received it and that's it, right? Now, reconciling some of the shadow so that all of the energy can be well integrated, you know, the reconciling the shadow and doing the work beforehand, you know, going to ceremonies and finishing module 1, all you're doing is tilling the ground, right? Think about, you have a field, right, of a lot of dirt, you know, an acre of that you're going to plant a lot of corn or whatever grain, and it's filled with rocks, right? So module 1 in every ceremony that you do is going in, you know, with like a roller, different kind of machinery to take all of the rocks out so that your corn can grow, right? And make the grooves, make the lines where you're going to grow everything, right? That's module 1, and that's all of the ceremonies that you could take from now. Now, say for example, you receive the corn, right? The Hampeq, I'm sorry. The Hampeq is similar to having sold. This is a good metaphor. Having sold, you know, 3 tons of corn, right? That you're going to then be able to profit from. Obviously, profit is not necessarily financial in this metaphor, but you know, profit for it energetically, emotionally. In the future, once you till the soil, you already have the contract. Say, for example, you have an uncle that says like, okay, this is great. You already got the land perfect, you know, sign me up for 3 tons of corn. And the moment that you have them, you know, the money's right there for you, right? And so you still have to do the work, right? You still have to come up with the corn that is going to take you some time to, you know, take the stones out and, you know, water your crops and take care of it with the scarecrows where the scarecrows have to be.
Mhm.
Right? And then you have the corn, and then it's right there. You're not gonna have to have any trouble, you know, seeing what the hell you're gonna do with the corn. This is just a metaphor, right? You already have the okay and the yes, and your spiritual enterprise is you know, guaranteed. This is what the Kapakyan is, right? So, you know, a lot of people receive Pampamisayok initiations without going through module 1 or module 2. This happens a lot in the Andes. And at that point, they're just seats. What people do with those seats is up to them. You know, the Quero or myself, I don't take any responsibility. When you come here, the last thing that you guys receive is a chalina, which is a scarf, a ceremonial scarf, where you are recognized as a Hampeq in front of the whole group. And I tell you very specifically, I give you all of the power that you have vested in me to recognize you as this. You are the Hampeq, for better or for worse. You're, you know, the path is there for you, right? I take no responsibility for what happens afterwards. So it's not like you're coming, you know, to me so I can protect you or the organization protects you. That's not what we're doing here. That would be savior, and we don't do that, right? We obviously we're collaborating. We're not carrying anyone in the direction team. Everybody holds their own space, holds their own ground, right? Does that make sense, brother?
Makes total sense. Yeah, I still feel called to definitely want to. Yeah, I'm like
Fire.
I'm the type of person where um I don't want to say extreme, but
I see that.
I want to. Yeah, I'm a person, especially right now in my journey. It's like I need something to break. You understand?
Yeah.
Um, I
Yeah.
need what's the word I'm trying to formulate the thought. Basically, I hit a point where I know deep down where I'm going to end up at is just the how and where and who, the vehicle. You get what I'm saying? And with even the conversation I had with you earlier, it's talking about the mushroom and with, you know, the dragon and whatnot. And interestingly enough, I didn't know that was the Hampeq was about. I
Mhm.
didn't know that. You get what I'm saying? So to me, it's just like a lot of synchronicity, a lot of leading me to where I need to be. But with that being said, yeah, I do have one more question.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know if this is my ego. I don't know if this is my soul calling me. I don't know what this is. I do feel like it's my soul, like something deep in me, but I definitely want to at one point end up in the Andes or in Peru, sitting with the elders. I want to sit with the medicine men, you know, and receive initiation and talk with them and sit down with them and whatnot. You know what I mean? That's kind of where I envision myself ending, you know,
Good.
at some point in my journey.
Yeah, we guide these journeys to, you know, up in the mountains, up in the right, like this next month, you know, Darren and Yvonne and, you know, a few of us were going, you know, up there, you know, to sit with the cattle, you know, with the elders, with, you know, Sebastian, you know, and
Mm,
you know, Don Jose. We're gonna be in communion with the priests of the High Andes. Yeah,
okay.
that's is definitely there, brother. Yeah.
And last thing I'll say is this: there is some ideas I have as far as like personally some things that came to me that I think I want to eventually in the future. Um, I personally want to like eat like once or twice a month. Want to be able to, you know, be able to do certain ceremonies for people who can't afford it, you know, and just on my own dollar to be like, boom, like, you know, choose 10 people when they come and do something like that, and maybe do like once a month or something like that. Cause I know some people who really need this medicine and they're looking for it, and at the moment may not have the financial means, you know?
After
So,
after we go through all of module one, I
mhm.
want I want to ask you right now to please reach out after we finish all of module one. I want to ask you to reach out to me, you know, to have this conversation again to see if you still feel the same.
Okay. Okay. Yes, sir.
If you
Okay.
do, after understanding anything, we have a really good conversation. We'll talk. We'll talk.
Perfect.
We are a church, brother. So
Yes, sir.
there's a lot of activity like that would fall under Seva, but we need to understand where that impulse is coming from.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you,
Okay.
brother. You be
Yes,
hugging.
sir. Yeah.
All right. I had a question from Tiffany. Where are the times throughout the year to attend? Are you referring to the Hampeq, Tiffany? Or what did you mean?
Sorry, it's gonna be a little loud because I'm driving. Um, I heard the answer for the dates, and that was over the next couple of months. I know the one in August and then another one in November, correct?
August is a pilgrimage in Peru,
Got it.
and then where people can receive a Pampam Sayok initiation with a very in-depth, you know, preparation with the Quero themselves. And then in October, we have the Hampeq, which is more for the organization and also for, you know, the preparation to serve, right? Serve yourself and serve others. Yeah.
It was for the Hampeq, so thank you. And then my second question, I did write in the chat because I know it's a little loud. I apologize. While I am a person that's still going through my own trials and tribulations, just as much as everyone else, would that still be, because I'm just trying to understand it all, because definitely after my first retreat and maybe 2 years prior to that, I know I've been called. I know it, but I fear, I guess it's a slight, not so much a fear, but a doubt that a person that's still going through trials and tribulations and healing from them, but not letting them take over them, could still hold space for people going through their processes as well. So I just wanted to make sure that it's not an oddity, but more so something that's normal, if that makes
Oh,
sense.
yeah,
I don't think anyone's perfect. It's just
No,
just
there's
trying to
nothing.
make sure.
No, the perfection lies in the process of evolution, right? There's no, and so to answer your question is completely yes. This is what I was talking to Darren, you know, a few minutes ago. But it is a requirement that you recognize that you're still in that process, and that as long as you have flesh, that continues, right? You might get to a very zen level of experience, you know, very zen level of life, you know, consciousness, and still there will be a refinement process forever, and it will continue even in the next dimensions. You get to the fourth dimension, which is now pure energy. You're conscious of your energy, but you don't have a body anymore. And then you go to the fifth dimension. What happened there is more refinement. You were able to evolve expand more, become more coherent, more aligned. And then as energy, you continue in the fifth dimension. And then what's next? The sixth dimension. So it's a very old school type of 2,000-year-old type of very Jewish, by the way, type of belief, right? That we need to reach enlightenment before we can become healers, right? And the stage of the unhealed healer, at some level, in some degree, we all have that. We all have it. And people have demonized that, right? It's like, oh, that he's the unhealed healer. It's like, oh, who doesn't have any shit to heal? It's anybody that really thinks that there's nothing else to heal or to understand, it's living ungrounded in a state of delusion, right? Does it mean that we're never going to end up healing? No, it doesn't mean that we're not going to end up healing. It just means that the hucha that we are reconciling becomes less intense, right? And the deep wounds and things like that, we do our accountability work and the introspection and everything, and things start to get a little bit more the baseline starts to be like harmonious, very, very flow based. And still we continue to like there's a million things that a lot of people would like to improve on, their ego would like to improve on, even if they're in a state of complete detachment and they can say like, no, I'm just happy to be existence. Like, okay, that's great, right? But they would be denying the impulse that are inspired to them by divinity itself and by their higher self to reach out for more expansion, for more light. And this is this path, right? This is a path of the Kapahyan where it doesn't really end. You become an Apu. If you're at the Alto Misayok level and you transcend, you can become an Apu. If you're at the Kurahakuyic level, you can become a whole planet, right? You can become, the source of life for different things. Now it's tangible, but at the same time, spiritually speaking, higher dimensions of your existence continue to evolve all the time. So it is important to understand that no, you don't need to be, completely Zen or healed. None of us, when we started, were completely healed. I've been doing this for 10 years now. I am not completely healed, right? I am a lot better, right, than when I started. And I've learned a ton. I'm so grateful for every ounce of growth that I've had. And does that make me perfect? Hell no. And for those of you guys who are gonna get to know me, there's not like a freaking demonish type of shadow that I hold, but I have very still reconciling some directions with the merchant, more evolved lessons of the Kapahyan into the Pampa Misayok and the Alto Misayok level, which have to do with detachment of bonds. Like, for example, I am totally attached to my children, and I'm completely happy with that, right? Do I know that I have to be completely detached from them to be more free? Yes, and I choose not to, right? But what else? The organization, what else? My relationships, my friendships, what else? The plans in the future that I'm inspired to. And for me to be able to make those, come into fruition, there's a lot of growth that I have to go through, right? That has to do with my personal value, that has to do with, different aspects of shadow that sometimes I'm not even aware of, right? I'm still learning now. Those shadows could be minimal, right? Or it could be substantial, but I am accountable with it. And so this is the integrity of the path, right? And to whoever wants to cast stones at ourselves or anybody in the organization, that's not our path. We don't cast stones. We receive them. Thank you so much. And, we continue forward with where we're going, with what we're called by Mother Ayahuasca and all of the medicines and the Kapahyan itself, the spiritual path that we're walking. Does that answer your question, Tiffany?
It does in full entirety. So thank you. That eased a lot of while doing the retreat and doing a lot of the ceremonies as well. Like, I could feel a lot of, I guess, like the digital ego dying out. And I think we all kind of suffer from that with, internet and Facebook and all those things that make it really hard to just own your actual feelings, not feelings imposed on you. So the way that you explained that, it definitely killed that, which was already dying, which is nice to really just get back into the human and the spirit. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, if you have any other questions, Hermana, please feel free to reach out and we can connect a little bit more.
Thank you so much. I will.
Mhm. All right. Darren, you had a question also, right, brother?
I do have a question. So, I know I've experienced the heroic doses in plant medicine,
Okay.
but like when you talk about the concept of holding space for yourself, I don't know if I mean, in like, how would you explain that? Because I don't know
That's
if I've done that or if
part
I
of
have done that,
That's part
right?
of what we go through the Hampeq initiation, brother. But the heroic dose to get lost, right? It's a surrender to the medicine. It's a trust that we have to, if we're gonna serve, we all have to have as a baseline. I love my medicine. I love my madre. It could be a year that I don't take ayahuasca and I've done this. And when I come back, even if my ego is like, ooh, it's like, you're gonna get a spanking or something. The moment that I start to feel mother is there too, like it's like, what was I thinking? So that trust and that connection that I need is never lost beyond what the ego thinks, might speculate. But then taking a heroic dose to be able to hold space for yourself, that's where the shaman is forged. So the Hampeq is a shaman. So that's where the shaman in you is gonna come out, right? And this means that, as you're going in, multiple times, this is like 2017, 18, 19, 20 and 20 after 2020, really not that much, but the first couple of years, I would take big doses and I would be, you know, sometimes the medicine would say like, just surrender, everything's gonna be okay. And I would be completely into the space, big visuals and flowing into dimensions, different things. But as a shaman, as a Hampeq, guiding a ceremony, you have a responsibility, right? So you have to be present. So there's the taking medicine and surrendering and having a personal process, which is the first stage, knowing how to do that and what can happen there also. And then the second stage is taking those same amounts of medicine, maybe a little bit less, but also that because the purpose is a little bit different. The purpose is to be accountable and responsible for the space that you have been entrusted with by medicine and by people that come to you. And so that requires you to stay really present. We always take medicine when we surf. I always take medicine, even if it's just half a cup. But I usually take like a whole cup, just like everybody else. And so I take it, and I am able to. You're going to be able, and everybody's going to be has to be able to be standing like the Quetzalcoatl in the heavens, connected to the Causa y Pacha, and very grounded here and now. So we have to develop this ability as shamans to compartmentalize your personal processes and to activate more presence so that the visuals stop. Even when you're like super deep in and you feel like throwing up, right? You have to be able to manage yourself. You're not managing medicine, you're managing yourself. How to step back out of the experience to be completely sober. And if someone, like, one of the things that happened once to me is like the lady was yelling and yelling and yelling, and I'm doing my work, right? And I'm really deep into it, visuals and the whole thing, and I'm doing some healing, and she was going through a process, and then the cops show up. It's like tack tack tack. The volunteers, everybody's just like scared because they see the lights outside. Is like, holy shit. And so what we have to be able to do is just like, so be able to channel the medicine at that level, obviously compartmentalizing our processes, but also when it is required, you can manage the ceremony space. And so before I opened, I came to her as like, I just whisper a few words from the Kapachyan, from the lineage, and she, began calming down. And then I went and opened the door and had a conversation. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of noise. It's like, yeah, we're in a ceremony, and it's an introspective process and the whole thing. And I was like, okay, just can you guys try to keep it down? It's like, perfect, no problem, thank you. And that's it. It's like, be able to groundedly manage any space, even when you're really, really just. Sounds good, David. Nice to see you, brother. Thank you so much for showing up. So yeah, and with each medicine, that must be the level of mastery that we want to practice, right? What do we do, right? And there's different situations, right? So holding space for yourself culminates in total mastery of those spaces, so you can choose consciously where your consciousness needs to flow. So the stream of consciousness, you can direct it, right? And it takes experience. Right? So that's why we begin little by little, of course. Does that answer a little bit your question, brother?
That was perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. And we'll get really deep into understanding of those spaces. In the Hampeq, we take, you know, a whole entire day, right, to talk about this in a grounded way. What happens to the ego, what happens to the mind, what are some of the transpersonal spaces that we go into, right? And how to exercise choice. So it's a mastery course also, right? Like it's an intensive, you know, not just you know, some concepts and experiences, but you know, a lot of wisdom that is behind all of this. Yeah. Right on. All right, guys. Well, are there any questions before we begin wrapping it up? So I didn't see any other questions in here. Okay. Well, it's been really a pleasure to me to be able to share all of this with you guys. You know, I hope that it inspires you in your ways forward. And if it has resonated, you know, please feel free to reach out to me, to Via, to Manuel, to Chelsea, Donnie. You know, if you want to talk a little bit more about what happens, there's a few testimonies over there on the website about, you know, what is experienced through each of the thresholds. And any other questions specifically as to the process itself, please feel free to call back. I think I asked you, Sherry, right? Did you have any questions? I don't want to make sure I did.
Oh, I don't have any questions. You know, I'm in module 1, so I feel like I'm at the beginning, and I'm just not ready because, like you said, I'm not ready. But it's calling me, but I'm not there yet. And
That's a very honorable recognition. There's a lot of humility in doing that. Continue holding the call, yeah, until you feel that you're ready. That would be
okay. Thank you so much.
All right, guys. Well, that's all I have. Again, thank you so much for showing up, for being here, spending this time with us, with me, and I'll see you guys soon. We'll connect a little later.
Thank you, Andres, for your wisdom. Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you so much.
Bonita tarde. Bye.